We are back and ready to go with Brazil versus Bulgaria coming up right now. This is going to be a pretty important match for both of these teams. Bulgaria has been really sort of come out as the dominant team in their group, to be honest. Bit of a surprise for me in general. But then Brazil haven't really been pushovers either.
Yeah, we have scrambled to try and make the maths happen very quickly for you on this one. We had to do it last minute because it relied on the result from Sweden earlier as well. Now, Bulgaria, who you will see very soon, the equation is very simple for them. They are at 3-1 already, so this is a very clear win and in game for them. If they go to 4-1, they cannot be touched. For Brazil, things become a bit more complicated, but we think if they win as well, they are guaranteed because they will go to a 3-win score, and only 3 possible teams can reach that 3-1 score because China and Indonesia play each other.
Oh, yeah, so it actually just limits the amount of teams that can actually contend for that spot. And also, you know, Brazil's actual game score up until now is actually pretty reasonable and hard to catch versus what the other teams are. So we'll check out what the score looks like towards the end of this series, but we can check out the players right now. As, like I said, the main player that sticks out for me for Bulgaria is Morgalad. He said, you know, every time we've spoken to him after a win for those guys, they're like, it's a team effort, you know, we all play, but it does feel like Morgalad has just got maybe just one extra step of control over the team, and, you know, he really does get the wins for when he's piloting the decks himself, but also just seems like a pretty confident guy and maybe the head of the team for Bulgaria.
Yeah, he does. I think, honestly, he has been one of the big breakout stars of this tournament. He's been crushing it personally, where he's been involved personally, but you see some beautiful shots of, what's the name? Christ the Redeemer? Is that the name of that statue?
I think so. Big
Sounds
statue.
right to me. One of the current wonders
big statue.
of the world. Big statue. Yes, and Brazil, of course, a wonderful country that I have not yet had the pleasure to visit. In fact, we may have a unique matchup here of 2 countries that I have not been to, Raven.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
It's not as unique for me, but close. Bulgaria does look pretty cool, but yeah, Brazil as well, really, you know, really making an impact for HCT. Americas as well, and Brazil and just South Americas in general had a very, very strong showing, and something they've not really done for a while, to be completely honest. So we'll see if that carries through to Hearthstone Global Games as well. Yeah,
I think, you know, historically there's always been that one South American or Latin American player that's, you know, pushed out through each qualifier that we've seen, but they haven't had the consistent pool of players making it and mixing in with the North American representatives, and that definitely was the case this time around.
Yeah, we can check out the matchup as well and how it's going to look. It is a team best of 5, each player bringing 2 classes, one of which they have to pick to up against one of the classes against their opponent. Is the first team to 3 will take the series. And as we get deeper and deeper into these weeks of stage 1, it is really the game scores as well start to take into account. I feel like we've talked a lot the past couple of days about, oh, this needs to be a 3-0 for this team or a 3-1. Something we didn't talk about too much early on, but becoming very, very impactful now.
Yeah, and it's very strange because when you get further into this stage of tournaments, you do tend to feel like all of a sudden, oh, 3-0 matters. It didn't matter before.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how it works. Like, we just didn't know that it mattered early on. But of course, we did keep pointing out that the game score was the first tiebreaker the whole way along. So game score was always very, very important. It just became crystallized just how important it was as we've reached the end of the group.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if a team wins 3-0 every single match, then it's towards the end, the 3-0s don't matter because they're already qualified and through at first place. But we can see it's going to be a Mage mirror coming up here. It's going to be Legolas versus Best Uday EU. And I believe we were talking about playoffs. Legolas was actually just out on tiebreakers, not for spring, but for winter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was actually, yeah, don't worry.
I was going to say, really? My mind is playing tricks on me then.
No, but for winter, I believe he was just out on tiebreak because he was one of the 5-2s. They didn't quite make it, so just yet another player, you know, from the South America's region, just, you know, really pushing the boat out and really trying to just get there. As they do have their Copa America tournaments, and most of this team is built up a very strong performance in there, along with, I think, Argentina is another team with some strong performance. But yeah, they're really just breaking out across multiple tournament series now.
Very dark in Bulgaria, apparently. Electric lighting has not found its way across there just yet.
Maybe they just like it dark.
Maybe. That's possible. I do like the dark.
Vampire Soul confirmed.
Since
I've never
I've
seen
cut
you
the
in
hair,
the sun.
Not so much. Since I've cut the hair, not so much, though.
It's just a trick, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
What, you don't like the dark as much?
No, I'm less of a vampire.
Oh, right. I was like, that's kind of a weird thing. It's like, oh, I got my hair cut, so I prefer the sun.
How are those things correlated? So, what are you talking about?
I think that often.
Me too. Thanks, Other Subtle.
Other Subtle. But yeah, it's going to be a Mage mirror, and you know, I was talking to you earlier today. We've seen a lot of Eater of Secrets on ladder and in tournament play, and I generally feel like in the mirror, if you have an Eater of Secrets and your opponent doesn't, it's very difficult for you to lose. But really, it's if both teams are bringing it is a question itself. And if both teams aren't bringing it, then, you know, it keeps it fair. But I just think that Eater of Secrets is absolutely huge in this matchup.
An Eater of Secrets has become a very interesting arms race because it appeared in Laughing's Freeze Mage list because Freeze Mage is unfavored against Gunter Mage. So Eater of Secrets allowed you to bridge the gap in that matchup. Then, suddenly, if Freeze Mages appear who are playing Eater of Secrets, Gunter Mage started to play the Eater of Secrets as well, to then, you know, get that advantage back. Now, suddenly, if you're a Gunter Mage queuing into ladder, you better say, okay, well, I better have Eater of Secrets in my deck, because if I queue into another Gunter Mage, they're likely to be playing Eater of Secrets, and I'm going to be unfavored. So it's a ridiculous snowball effect, where as soon as one Eater of Secrets entered the meta, everyone else just kind of had to include this same terrible tech card in their deck just to stay even.
Pretty much. It's been doing wonders for me on ladder. But it does look like it's going to be Gunter Mage versus Secret Mage. You see two Kirin Tor Mages in the hand for Best of the EU.
Say that again, the same way that you just...
No, never on demand, Sol. Okay. Never on demand. And a Spellbender as well to go with it. And Spellbender is one of the secrets that isn't super common. In Secret Mage, it's common, but not like really common. So it can be thrown off quite a lot because the second you get one of your spells kind of just thrown away onto a random 1/3, you can be in a lot of trouble because even if that opens up one extra attack for, say, a Kirin Tor Mage, that's like an extra 4 damage. That's actually just quite a lot.
Raven, I heard you like mana worms.
I'm really good at drawing them as well. Me and Legolas. We got this.
You can be friends.
Okay, so Mana Worm's going to be good. Frostbolt as an answer to any response from a Mana Worm Best Udyr may have. But you can also just play them both out one after the other. Is there a world in which you wait and play 2? I don't think so.
I'm not sure it changes anything.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it stops like coin Frostbolt this turn into Frostbolt next turn, but you're probably just okay with that.
Round of applause, yeah. If you coin Frostbolt my 2 Mana Worms, you're probably just fine with that.
Yeah.
Lethal.
And by what Sol means is Primordial Glyph into Glyph into Glyph into Glyph into Glyph until the Mana Worm can hit phase for 30.
Yeah, which is 1 in 31, 29 times with a bit of a modification at the end because the last few spells can be like Frostbolt and still be lethal. Yeah. So if you want to sit and do that maths in chat, if you're a very sad individual, feel free.
Wow. You do a lot of maths.
Sorry, 3 in 31, 29 times.
Okay, so the Discover, we'll find out in a second. Can't quite see it yet. But we'll get there. Had just a small spectator bug on our part, so we'll get back into it pretty quick. But yeah, taking the time, so definitely not going to be an easy one. And this early on, without knowing what type of mage it is kind of difficult to play Glyph. You play it because Mana Worm's down, it's very important. But we'll see what it was. Gone with good old Fireball. Can't argue with that 2 mana deal 6 damage. But yeah, that's probably just a steady choice, right? Because you don't know what you're going to need. You don't know what type of mage it is. It could be Freeze Mage because you've not seen anything that early. Yep. So you just take the extra damage overall.
Right. It's hard to imagine too many situations where you pass off Fireball there. I mean, even the hand that you have is so aggressive that maybe even if a Frostbolt was offered, you wouldn't necessarily want it there because the one thing with your hand is that it is slowly running out of a bit of value here. But now Bulgaria can start to fight back on tempo just a little bit, and this Spellbender will protect the Kirin Tor from removal, try and force the Mana Worm to trade into it, which... It's not exactly a win, a 1-drop trading for your 3-drop, but it's a problem that needs solving right now, this Mana Worm that's on the board. So if it's forced to trade into your 4/3, or if you're able to make that trade happen on the following turn more likely, then at least that is a win for you.
Well, we even saw Best Udyr actually just hover over a couple more cards there, maybe just giving it a little bit of a note saying, you know, I've got more than one secret in hand, so you're going to have to think about that going forward. We are going to see the Frostbolt get soaked by the Spellbender here.
Yeah, and Brazil will be counting themselves unlucky that it was Spellbender and not the Mirror Entity. The Mirror Entity would have been perfect for them. They could have played this Mana Worm, Frostbolted the 4-3, and then their 3-3 Mana Worm that can still attack would have just been able to trade out the 1-3 Mana Worm on the opposite side. So now that is that slightly awkward position. And now because they played the other Mana Worm, that trade might be forced to be made for them. Otherwise, you could just go face and force the 4-3 to trade into your Mana Worm because your Mana Worm has upside and snowball. But now there's just a value trade on the board that the Kirin.
Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it? And because of this Kirin Mage, you know your opponent's now playing Secret Mage. You know they're the naturally more aggressive deck. So do you want to actually just prolong the game? You have a Meteor as well. I feel a lot of the time, as long as you can get through turns 5 and 6 from Secret Mage and actually stay ahead, they struggle to do anything past that, to be completely honest, outside of a Yogg run. It's just gone for the damage, though.
Yeah, when you say they're the more aggressive deck, it's not by much, though, right? When you actually think about it. Like, Secret Mage, yes, they have early minions, a few more of them to be able to curve out, but you know, if the Gunter Mage draws a Mana Worm, they are very capable of rushing just about any deck down, especially when they pick up Fireballs from Primordial Glyph, because they're trying to do similar things in the mid-game, right? Like, Fireland's Portal is in both of these decks, and that is just a huge swing in any deck.
Yeah, I think it's more the draws are more aggressive. So, you know, Meteor, Ice Block, like, they're defensive tools. Flame Strike, for example, if it's in there. Whereas Secret Mage has the minions, as we just talked about, has the crystal runners that can be free very soon, and then has a lot of burn spells, but then has, you know, cards like the other secrets. Counterspell is actually an aggressive card a lot of the time because it stops the opponent interacting with your board with spells, so that you can get in more damage. So Mirror Entity generates a minion almost with charge on your part of the board, so their draws are actually just naturally more aggressive in themselves. And now picking up that Ice Barrier means that Kirin Mage can go off again. Bit of a shame that there's just nothing to do with that 1 mana. So this Ice Barrier just may as well just be 1 mana. Kirin can just be a 4-3 and we'll call it a day.
I don't think you ever play Kirin this turn.
You need to ping, right?
Yeah, you can just Ice Barrier and ping instead. Like, ping and Kirin do the same thing here, which is kill that Mana Worm. Yeah. Essentially. Except playing the Kirin gives your opponent the opportunity to kill the Kirin some other way and then force you to ping again next turn. You can also just choose to avoid and go Arcane Intellect, but that seems like a chance to take a beating as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the back foot as this Secret Mage. You really want to be the aggressor.
Holding on to the Ice Barrier here.
Interesting.
Looking potentially for an Antonidas combination later on with a 1 mana secret. Also, there's potential bluff equity to playing it in a situation where Ice Barrier can't be tested for, right? If they play it here, there's no hidden information to their secret. The 2-3 just attacks face, they find out it's Ice Barrier, and then Brazil are free to make whatever turn they want. Whereas if you can clear the board and then play Ice Barrier, you're then in a spot where, okay, Brazil stop for a moment and go, okay, we have to play around Counterspell. Now we have to think about Mirror Entity.
I wonder how much that is worth, though, because if they play the barrier when the board is clear, the barrier may never be procced.
True.
And what would worry me is, we talked a lot about Eater of Secrets, yes, but if you play Barrier, Ice Block, and such in the same turn then, well, Eater of Secrets can just snipe that. And, you know, maybe you're not going to play around it, but it really isn't uncommon at the moment. So, I don't know. I would have liked to gain the additional health from the Barrier there and then. Well, it's easy, because currently at 22, like, Mage can actually just get you.
There's also the Antonidas consideration, though. I think that's not even theory. I think we saw Antonidas get mulliganed away in the opening hand, so it is in the deck as well, and it's just, you know, a cheap secret that's available to you. But they're going to go ahead and play it right now, just giving the double whammy of tools to force Brazil to play around.
Yeah, like you said, don't really expect the Ice Barrier. And the Discovered from Glyph does not show up until the secret appears and has been revealed, right?
They can see that it costs 1 mana to play, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's more from Cabal Courier.
Correct.
I guess that's more of an issue.
Yeah.
But could still could be anything, so Counterspell is a worry. Smoke Potion is a card that could have been sort of discarded to a certain extent, so it's a bit of a safe opening there. Now Legolas can just trade. I'll just go for the ping.
Yeah, right away you can kind of just see the weird fear equity in just playing 2 secrets at the same time. It's very confusing for an opponent to be able to play around effectively. The sequencing kind of changes dynamically based on what combination of secrets you think it's most likely to be.
They do have Cabal Courier as well, which isn't the end of the world if it's mirror entity. I've given you a 2/2. It's not the not a huge problem. Ooh, what do you like here? Shimmering Tempest, just the best card.
I think so. Is there any Herald upside in your deck? I don't think there is, right?
Nope.
Like, you're living in a world where, like, Antonidas sticks for a turn or something? It doesn't seem too viable. So do we start with Book or do we start with AI? AI lets you have enough mana open to play Acolyte of Pain if that's a card in your deck, but mostly you're dealing with cards like Arcanologist anyway, so I don't think the sequencing is massively important. Maybe Babbling Book for Kabbalist Home?
Yeah, I was thinking more it opens up the chance of just playing a secret if you drew one. But what's weird is I would have thought it would have been Arcanologist first. Oh no, you got the Arcanologist. Yeah, sorry, you got the Arcanologist from that, yeah. So you can AI into a secret, and again, this is the... When you can stack secrets like this is where, something along the lines of, a counterspell can actually be quite important because it's just limiting all the options Legolas has. It's already used 1 Volcanic Potion, so then, what else is there even left to, throw away on a counterspell? Nothing you really want to.
Right. And it's one of the great strengths of making counterspell not the first secret you play in a lot of matchups, because... There's a lot of matchups where particular spells are very, very key. You think about Rogue with the Quest, Druids with Living Mana. So you can kind of get into this weird cat and mouse game where you play another secret first, they're forced to throw away another spell that isn't their Living Mana or their Quest, and then the next turn, that spell is out of their hand, so you then play your actual counterspell, and they have no more spells left in hand to test with. Like, counterspell is a very tricky card to find consistent value out of in a lot of spots.
It is actually amazing going into a Druid turn 5 and you play Mirror Entity, and they're like, well, I just can't play Living Mana this turn.
Right.
And then you get the turn after. Cabal Crystal Run is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Just slightly more aggressive minions, 0 mana 5/5. Normally gets the job done. Even a little bit short of actually build secrets, but Crystal Runner plus Counterspell plus Ping and trade seems pretty good, because what you really want to do is defend your 5/5.
Potion of Madness very relevant going into your opponent's expected Medivh turn though, right? Like, wouldn't you rather have, like, Sight Unseen, wouldn't you rather have Potion of Poly down this turn than Counterspell, since you're expecting like 7/7 body to hit the board?
Yeah, sure. I'll just be worried about nice about Violence Portal as well, because last turn there wasn't anything really to Violence Portal, whereas this turn that is a glorious target to just hit with it. So that was my initial worry. And if the 5/5 gets to hit once, you're in a really good stead for the following turn as well. But yeah, going into 8, it's definitely no complaints to potentially think about Medivh. We even see, Legolas actually choose to remove the 5/5 as opposed to just slamming Medivh on the board and trying to catch up the turn after.
And both of these players right now are trying to dance around the other's Medivh. Legolas and Brazil are considering whether they play Mirror Entity this turn because they can try and pick up a free 7/7 for their troubles as well.
I'd love Mirror Entity here. You've seen a lot of the smaller stuff from Secret Mage.
You've seen...
Also as well, does Secret Mage commonly play Medivh?
It's a list that's come out more recently, where it's, almost like every time we cast a game of Paladin, we can't really give anything a defined, archetype. Like, honestly, George C. had, a Gunter Mage list that was very nearly Freeze Mage, just with a few changes. There's Secret Mages lists like this one we're seeing now that are very, very nearly Gunter Mage.
Astro has the Gunter Mage list that's got 2 counterspells, 1 block, and a Yogg in it. Oh, Legolas is happy. I don't blame him, though. Just gaining either the insta-kill on Medivh or just 7 damage is actually huge.
Look at this counter-swing turn as well. Gluttonous Ooze procs the Potion of Polymorph for not particularly high value. They've already tested for Counterspell on the previous turn, so now Fireball and Ping or Meteor takes care of the 7/7, and they've just got a free 7/7 for their troubles.
And they're not even playing the Secret Mage list. It's absolutely huge. Like I said, just getting your Medivh sort of just like messed with is a nightmare, especially Mirror Entity. Again, you know, more defensive decks will be like, well, I just trade Medivhs and then play my turn out. You only have the weapon left. But Legolas being able to destroy the weapon and kill the Medivh is massive. It's just, it's like, best idea you just pass the turn more than anything, which is huge. Legolas using the Meteor because Fireball can go face, quite frankly.
Yep.
And he'll be looking to end this game very quickly indeed. I just think as well, just the counter spell behind the Crystal Runner felt so much better to me. Just keep a 5/5 onto the board. Ah, I've never heard Medivh die before. I don't know why.
What? You try to tell me every time you play Medivh, you just win the game.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's exactly what I'm telling you, Saul.
All right. Medivh's Valet coming down first again, just to play around the same things they could have got burned by earlier, and the Bulgaria did get burned by the Potion of Polymorph and the Mirror Entity, and now Medivh hits the board. Atiesh is in play, and there is no Gluttonous Ooze available on the other side.
Yeah, I think this turn just has to be Antonidas Frostbolt here, or Antonidas Counterspell. Oh no, he's already got Counterspell down, sorry. So, has to be Frostbolt, stop the Medivh, just trading straight into Antonidas, generating a Fireball, and trying to just not die, basically, at this point.
Oh, the Alex as well. Brazil just have everything they need here. They just have to make sure that no ridiculous accidents happen this turn. On the previous turn, they tested for, well, of the current secrets that are up, they've tested for Ice Barrier, right? They've tested for Potion of Polymorph and Mirror Entity. So they're pretty much down to the counterspell style secrets at this point, right?
Yeah, and I actually think you burn, you can try and burn the Ice Block this turn.
Wouldn't you just rather buy an Ice Barrier, like every time?
Oh, that's true. I actually didn't see Ice Barrier there. I was looking at Volcanic Potion as one, but then you can just risk making your board tiny, which isn't great. But yeah, Ice Barrier would be fine as well, just because you want the Violence Portal to go off with Atiesh in hand. Like, that's like priority, and that's what I was meaning by that's even a higher priority than playing Ice Block because of where you are in this game. 31 health, you have Alexstrasza, you probably are not going to die. It's going to use Fireball though. Huh. That just feels bad. Why would you use Fireball?
The only thing I can think is that they're scared of Counterspell and Spellbender, like sequencing considerations, but I agree, that seems very, very odd to me as well.
Yeah, it's quite the stretch, just face tanking the Antonidas, just smacking me on the head with that staff.
Yeah.
Means -1 charge, but now no more secrets, but now Counterspell can be alive again. Definitely needs to get that Violence Portal with that RTS charge now. So there's a 7-drop and a 5-drop and deal 5 damage at the same time. Absolutely huge combination of cards. So now we just have to see Ice Barrier unless there's a cheaper spell and easy one to throw away.
Nope.
Nope. It's just another Violence. It's going to be one beastie Alexstrasza as well.
Yeah, curious on the previous turn, I really can't get my head round the decision-making from Brazil because the other secret that is in play has been in play for a long, long time, and I'm fairly sure at this point they've ruled out every single possibility apart from Ice Block for that spell.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of only dealing with like one piece of concealed information on the secrets. Very strange.
Yeah, feels weird. Especially just because you had that barrier, right? You just had the safe Ice Barrier. You've got a fantastic Violence Portal. And I guess they were just worried about not being able to kill it. Maybe there was a miscount in sort of communication. You know, someone just mistracking one of the secrets.
That'll do. Alexstrasza getting the buff as well, as if that's going to end up being relevant this game.
Might be.
Yeah.
So that's the nice set of spells you want if you've just Alexed your opponent. But Best of the EU hasn't, so it's a problem now. And the only thing is, I can imagine double Fireball on the minions if you run Yogg. And you literally like, okay, I'm just going to not die, draw Yogg, go. Because you played enough spells at this point.
Yeah, crucially, even like double Fireball Frostbolt Face is 15 damage. So even if there's a Pyro in your deck, that doesn't end the game.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so doesn't seem like Face is the place in this.
Yeah, I like this. Frostbolt ping, you can ping it again next turn, keeps all the fireball. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, same deal, right?
Yep. Just utilizing the ping to the minion as opposed to face. Yeah, this is fine, and now... Woo!
The old 10-10 Alex Straza, classic.
Yeah, I think it makes the card more fair, you know, just buff it a little bit. Exactly, Alex Straza is actually nuts.
I appreciate that.
It's like back and forth between the players.
That Medivh emote is just BM. That's so triggering. I would be raging if I appreciate that.
Sounds great to me.
So triggered.
I love the sequencing again. It's like, oh, I'm just going to make sure I've not forgotten about its counterspell somehow, you know, like number 3.
Yeah, they're going to get the news that I'm pretty sure they had confirmed at this point anyway that it is Ice Block, but many of these lists only play 1 and no way to heal outside of occasional Yogs and Primordial Glyph silliness, meaning that Pyroblast will probably just be able to end the game on the following turn. There you go.
Didn't even go for the Blizzard to stall out there, and it was an option as well.
Hey, buddy.
Well, just... Is that dog wearing a headband?
I think so, yeah.
Nice, I can get behind that. That's good fashion sense, Mr. or Mrs. Duggo. Not sure which one. But yeah, Legolas taking the win there, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of Secret Mage. If the moment you just get cleaned up once, it's very difficult to push through against a lot of decks, actually. You know, the Secrets did sort of mess around with Legolas a little bit, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I've been playing Miracle Rogue for the majority of this season, and I checked some of my stats very recently and actually had a very favorable win rate against Secret Mage. So I'm like, well, if you're playing...
Everyone's got a favorable win rate versus Secret Mage.
But that's the thing, right? Is that if you're playing a very aggressive, burn-based Mage deck and you're not beating Rogue... Like,
with counter spells.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It feels like you're in a weird spot. But... Yep. Secret Mage, you know, a lot of people do seem to disagree. It's a deck that is continuing to pop up every now and again. It hasn't been a flash in the pan. It's stuck around. People are continuing to play it. So the builds are continuing to evolve, as we said, as well, as the list, the Gunter, Freeze, and Secret Mage lists are all starting to just homogenize and get thrown into the same melting pot, and people are just picking out the cards they want and mixing and matching as they see fit.
Yep, and the next matchup we've got is Loxodontes versus Silent Storm. It is going to be Druid versus Paladin coming up, and we saw a Jade Druid game that you guys cast.
We did.
But Aggro Druid seems to be king at the moment, at least in just popularity. You know, I'm not saying it's got the best matchups against everything, but I feel like Aggro Druid is just a well-rounded deck, for especially this style of format where you can literally play against anything. There is no ban. You just pick your deck versus the 2 classes your opponent's got and hope for the best.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Aggro Druid basically since the start of the expansion. I think it's... you know, just someone who's a fan of just high power level stuff. It just immediately felt like a very high power level deck to me.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the first decks you tried, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it was when we were here, right? Like literally rehearsing for week 1, like just after the expansion has dropped, and you and Lothar's trying out a bunch of stuff, and I was jamming some aggro
Getting
Druid.
Aggro Druid.
Yeah.
Get him in the face. Whereas Paladin, as we said, it's getting close to... Gunter Mage is kind of getting close to that, or Mage as a class is getting close to where Paladin is at the moment, where it's like, pick 30 Paladin cards, 10 of them have to be Tyrion, you know, like...
literally, 10 of them have to be Tyrion.
Yeah,
that is how
10
Paladin
Tyrion,
works.
You know what I mean. Tyrion, Hydrologist...
That's just how Paladin works.
Yeah, okay.
2 getaway Kodos, 2 Stonehill Defenders, some Redemptions thrown in, 10 Tyrions, easy.
PogChamp.
Yeah.
Got him.
N'Zoth, there you go.
Why not?
We found it.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just a core set of cards and then just a few differences. Now and again, we've seen Rallying Blade, for example, you know, sort of pop up just to help with that early aggression. A lot of the decks can do, but we can see Loxodontis in Brazil is actually bringing Jade Druid to this matchup, and we cast a few Muzzy matches where Muzzy managed to actually win this matchup as Paladin.
Yeah, now you were talking yesterday with Lorinda, and you said that you felt that Jade Druid was favored overall in this matchup.
Yeah.
You were talking specifically against control paladins, right?
Yeah.
Because if you were talking about mid-range, you are a crazy person.
No, because I was talking about, you know, the way Amnesiac and that brought, like, the sort of just no-win deck.
Yes.
Sort of thing, like no N'Zoth or anything.
Right.
It was just like, well... Muzzy had to literally just go face and cross his fingers, and even then he got in some tough spots.
Right.
Obviously, Tarim can get, you know, absolutely insane value. The Murlocs can just be unanswerable by the Jade Druid often in the early game, but when it's the more slower, just sort of don't die Paladin, then I think Jade Druid takes it.
Now, you see with Valfin Inquisitor in hand, we weren't sure beforehand because the only Murlocs we could see were Hydrologists, which are featured in the very slow control Paladins, but with Valfin Inquisitor, this is at least a Paladin with an element of the mid-range about it, and this is where I think it really does start to swing in the Paladin's favor, because you then have the big 1-2 punch that Jade hates to deal with. You have big early game board states, the ability to snowball early on. If that fails, you then have the ability to bail out and actually fight for value through the mid-game with cards like Tarim and Tyrion.
Also, Megasaur is one that is just not very well answered by Druid. You give those Murlocs any buffs, and then Druid's like, problem. Bulgaria does have a reasonable curve here, but getting that Fandral out this early. I mean, there are no cards that predominantly combo with Fandral at the moment, but just having the minion on board helps negate the early aggression that we were talking about and the way that Sandstorm could run away with this game.
Hydrologist coming down, no getaway Kodo for the value engine. With the Stonehill Defender coming up, that was a possibility. They could have gone Peacekeeper on 3, Stonehill, and Getaway on 4, but that kind of slow early game value play isn't really what you're looking for. You're looking for tempo, at least for the first 6 turns. Like, that's your plan A against Druid, right? Yep. It's just to try and blow them out as fast as you can. If that fails, you will then fall back into a more tempo-based strategy, but with this Fandral being innovated out, you now find yourself very much on the back foot as the mid-range Paladin, which is not a spot you want to be in whatsoever.
It's going to be a tough one. There's just Earthen Scales available for Loxodontis, but the 2 minions don't even trade totally with Fandral anyway, so probably just going to be a hero power this time. What to do? Don't see any reason to Earthen Scales.
Going into turn 3. Not immediately, but I guess it does set you up over time a little better. No, you're playing around War Leader, right? You're playing, yeah, there you go, just before it gets drawn, yeah, because the War Leader would come down and give 3
I guess so, yeah.
So you get 4 health instead of 3. So the Earthen Scales does allow you to keep your Fandral hanging around.
Okay, and with the Tower Creeper follow-up as well. Means that maybe, just maybe, Loxodontis can hold out a little bit longer and try and go for that Nourish combo, which would be impressive for Fandral to be alive that long against this slightly aggressive Murloc Paladin.
Brazil throwing out the laugh here. Loxodonta's throwing out the laugh. They pick up the Wild Growth, which will allow them to get to that Nourish a turn quicker, but unfortunately, if they play the Wild Growth, their Fandral is guaranteed not to stick around for that extra turn, so it definitely feels like a Tar Creeper turn to me, but cute play on the previous turn. That very rarely you see good play get so crystally and immediately rewarded like that. I'm not saying good play doesn't get rewarded, but just you play around War Leader, your opponent draws War Leader. Yeah. It was just an excellent moment of poetry.
Nice, and you do like your bit of poetry. So
do I?
Yeah.
It's news to me.
Is it? I mean, you like rapping, right? So
say that again, please.
You like rapping, right?
All right, sweet. I don't know why that sentence just sounds hilarious in your accent. I don't know why.
Okay, I'll take it. But that's basically poetry to music.
It is.
So yeah, the Tar Creeper's going to come down now, and a little bit weak to True Silver Champion because the Valfin trades in, and then the Aldor Peacekeeper gets a clean kill on the Fandral, but not available now. Consecrate, maybe? Just to fully clear?
Yeah. It's looking like it might even be the play, because you know, Bulgaria do have to plan long-term here, and if they don't deal with the Fandral this turn, they have to be very, very confident they're dealing with it next turn, because that's when the complete mess happens if they don't get the job done.
And even though the board is clear, there is then a follow-up of Rallying Blade, because what you're expecting on 4 is either more Ramp or Jade Spirit, and then Rallying Blade pretty much just deals with Jade Spirit anyway, and then you can go into Stonehill, into Repentance, start to build your board like that. So yeah, I think this is a fairly reasonably confident Consecrate. Stampeding Kodo is pretty big as well. Just anything that, just gets tempo for the Paladin is pretty huge here, I feel. Not this turn, of course, but going forward.
How ridiculous is it this turn? Challenges Aya directly, which will then break it open into a 2-2 Jade at that point, and you can play Rallying Blade to take care of the 2-2.
I was just wondering, you just probably want a hero power every turn.
Sure.
Just because you've got War Leader.
Sure, no, that's true. Yeah, with your hero power already transformed, there's huge upside to your hero power. You're right.
And the Kodo deals with the Aya Jade that it summons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you can do it the other way around.
Yeah, kind of a backwards way, right?
The 5-3 Aya comes down, you can Rallying Blade the 5-3 Aya, and then there's a 2-2 on the board that you can Kodo on the following turn. So it all works out for you eventually.
Yep. Loxodontis is probably going to go for the Aya this turn, just to get something on the board. It does directly challenge these two minions. Then can follow up with the Nourish, no doubt. This Primordial Drake might be a bit of a sticking point as well, because it's going to be hard for the Paladin to get through without an equality. Without a board, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah, one Aldor down as well to be combined with the Stampeding Kodo, which would be a clean answer as well if the Kodo doesn't come down in the coming turns to deal with these early game Jades.
I miss the days of humility. The spell, not the trait.
Raven essentially saying there, he misses the days before he had such a massive ego.
Don't remember those days, so I can't miss them.
No. So is this War Leader Rallying Blade? Is that the turn? Oh, he's going to trade with the 3-2 here. He could have taken a value trade into the 1-1 instead, right? If he's taking care of the 2-2, this is the correct way to do it because he takes less damage.
Yeah, it would have left the minion.
He can value trade out the 1-1 here with the 1-4 anyway, so I guess this works out the best in the end.
Worried about the pause.
You can just go face.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you're not killing the 1-1, was it much different to leave the 2-2 up and leave the Murloc up and kill the 1-1 instead?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you weren't going to do this play, what difference does a 2-2 make?
Not much. I mean, in general, whenever you're kind of playing against Jade Druid and you're thinking, okay, what can he do to leverage this minion against me? The answer is very often nothing. Like, they don't do that. The stats of the minions that are on the board are kind of just what they have to play with.
It scales, right?
Yeah,
it's just literally scales, whereas 1-1 into a 2-2, I am terrified. Now with Primordial Drake.
Ooh, that's huge.
Auctioneer and some Jade generation spells. Loxodontis does have the juice to go for quite a while now, and it's what Jade Druid does well, but often we found Jade Druid to be, a little bit stuck for cards at this point. Nourish obviously helping out massively there, but this Finger could be the steamroll that Sandstorm's been waiting for.
Finger and Repentance this turn looks glorious as well, because I think one of the things your Druid opponent would do in this situation as you drop Finger the Flying Star is just slam a Primordial Drake to put an 8 health
Too much health,
away of your Finger. So it would forego the hero power, but I think with the Primordial Drake turn in mind, the Repentance should come down here for Bulgaria.
Well, also as well, when are you playing Repentance? Because you're playing Tyrion next turn, right? So then it's suddenly turn 9, and it's like, well, they become the turns where the smaller stuff comes out from Jade Druid, and they start cycling, start just creating Jades. But this is absolutely huge. Boop. This singular Jade is like just staring at this Stonehill defender.
So now, put yourself in Brazil's shoes for a second. That secret was taken from a Hydrologist played on turn 2, has not been played since. So it's now been lined up very, very clearly against your expected Primordial Drake turn. So question number 1, do you expect it to be Repentance and play around it? Question 2, can you even play around it?
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of, even if you expect Repentance, you need the damage on Finger. Finger, you've seen one War Leader already. So, I guess you have to just Drake, hope he doesn't draw the second War Leader, and then you can Drake again to clear what's left.
Yeah,
I think that might just be all you've got at this point. If you play Gadget Zan into Jade Idol, sick. Like, that's your whole turn. Gadget Zan just gets cleaned up anyway. And Finger's still around, so I think this is just a necessity more than anything.
Oh boy.
I think Megasaur is one of the key cards in this matchup,
Do you?
No, but it's like, a lot of people look at Finger, look at Tyrion, it's like the big powerhouse cards. But Megasaur just creates minions that are just, you can't be dealt with by the Druid, which I actually think in general is underrated as a whole.
Will Bulgaria just feel like Tyrion is more powerful here, though? We can see that second Primordial Drake would be huge if Tyrion was to come down here. Like, clear off the Divine Shield, sweep the rest of the board. It would be a massive, massive power spike for Brazil if Tyrion were to come down. But having just seen Primordial Drake #1 hit the board, Bulgaria are well within their rights to not play around Primordial Drake #2.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit weird, though. Just because Tyrion's just always good, as opposed to the Megasaur isn't.
We do have Murloc hero power, right? So there's a Megasaur is at least always something.
Megasaur is something. Get that 1/1 buffed up. Second Drake, not a surprise coming down here. Even getting the Jade Idol behind it, just getting something on the board.
Do you know what, Raven? I think Sunkeeper Tarim is a key card in this matchup.
Shut up, Saul. It's all right. Do you like it this turn?
Do I like it this turn?
Let me think.
I like it this turn.
Thanks, Uther. Uther gets it.
Raven gets it. I would definitely be gold down in those series.
I guess I do, yeah. Nothing else looks particularly appealing. It's just like your job here with Tarim isn't necessarily to use it to neuter the huge late game Jades. Like, that's not really a winning line for you. You're trying to make an aggressive push, but your aggressive push has kind of been halted completely in its tracks by the Primordial Drake in this spot.
Hey, you can use the weapon to kill the Drake. You can even use the Tyrion to kill off the 3/3 if you really want. Auto-equip the Ashbringer. Hero power plus Tarim sets up for a nice Megasaur turn the turn after as well. But he's just going to go for the Consecrate instead and hold on to this Tarim.
Big Jade turn coming out from Brazil here, potentially. How many wild growths have been used here? Was it? I know
one.
There was one that ramped them into the Aya turn, right? Did they use a wild growth before that? No, they just jammed Fandral.
No, because it was Innovate, Coin Fandral into Hero Power into Tar Creeper, right?
Yep.
Oh no, into Earthen Scales Tar Creeper.
Yes. So they still have one wild growth remaining in the deck and one Innovate as well, right? Which are your big key cards for Auctioneer turns at this point. So it feels like, yeah, just a double Jade turn in theory. The Jade Behemoth coming down as a 6/3 into the 6/2 Tyrion that's already got value doesn't exactly feel fantastic, but it's at least something.
Yeah, it means Tyrion isn't going face.
I guess that's a win.
This does feel a little bit awkward, though. Clear everything but the 4/4 and play Rag, I guess?
Me think.
I don't like all this clearing against Jade Druid. It worries me.
Yeah. It's just that the problem is, like, I don't know, I just would have loved Tarim last turn. You'd have a 3/7 and a 3/3 on the board, and you'd have the Ashbringer already equipped. And that would have been a 3/3 Murloc, so then Hero Power into Megasaur would have been pretty nice.
Yep. Definitely was the play with higher snowball potential.
Ragnaros is a pain to deal with, though.
It is, and it was a clutch draw here as well, because otherwise the turn was a bit awkward as well. Like, this Megasaur is slowly but surely just getting stranded in the hand here. Yeah, harking back to the turn where he played Tyrion as well, where you really advocated quite heavily for the Megasaur to come down that turn.
Yeah, it's just because if I see 3 Murlocs on the board and Megasaur doesn't get me killed, I like playing Megasaur, personally. Innovate? Ooh, indeed.
Loxodonus looks very happy about something. What's he hit off the top here? The Feral Rage to go along with the Jade Blossom, meaning that he's guaranteed at least 2 more draws in this point.
Also, as well, allows him to clear the Ragnaros.
Yep.
Feral Rage into it along with the 4/4.
I think Feral Rage always gets cast here, so you lead with it first. Even if you draw Wild Growth in this position, you might actually still bypass it and jam the Jade Blossom instead, just because it's an extra 6/6 in play, which is a pretty big deal in this position. But since the Feral Rage is almost always getting played, I think definitely leading with that is the most viable line.
Yeah. Chunking out 6/6 Jade of the Claw as well. Jade of the Claw. It's just a new minion.
Did you just say Jade?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just making stuff up. Second Omega Soul. Too much TJ and Admirable.
Kindly Omega Saw.
This board can be cleaned up.
Again, I'm just not happy with all this clearing against Jade Druid.
But you need to kill the Gadgetzan.
Yeah, of course, the Gadgetzan goes down, yeah, but like, you know,
It's not all about your happiness, Sal,
if you're getting into this position where you're defaulting to swinging your Ashbringer at a 6/6 every turn, you can very, very quickly get into a spot where you just kill yourself. Like, you just take too much damage on your own face, and then Jade Druid gets into a position where they just slam 2 or 3 Jades on the board at the same time, and you're suddenly facing down lethal from a position where you felt like you were miles ahead.
Okay, well, poison on the Murloc helps.
It certainly does.
I was wondering whether you go, like, it's probably a bit OTT, but if you go double plants.
That seems crazy, Raven.
Then if it gets cleared, you just tire him and kill him. That'll be nuts.
It would be pretty nuts.
In a world where Druid can clear more than 1 minion a turn. Both Drake's gone, though. Good to know. So Sandstorm probably didn't have to even think about that because there's no, multitude of AoE available for Loxodontis here.
I don't think we've seen a single swipe yet, though, right?
No, that's true. We've not.
Start with Earthen Scales here, trying to dig through as best as they possibly can, but this is really just a desperation situation for Brazil here. Second Feral Rage can be used to give them an additional turn at best, but now the Wild Growth draw has just come a little too late for them because, there's 5, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21 damage staring them down already, and they're at 20.
Yeah, this is rough. What are you even looking to pick up?
We just have to Feral Rage out of necessity or you're dead. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, what is there even to draw in the deck?
Right.
You know, that I actually just don't know. Like, Swipe, awesome, but look at all the minions that are left. We can see Sunkeeper Time's going to hit the board this turn and deal with everything. It's going to be a 10 push from the 2 Megasaurs.
Well, hang on. 5, 10, 13, 18, and then 9 more from the 1/1s that then become 3/3s. It's 5, 10, 13, 18, 27. Is he 1 off this turn? I think he's 1 off.
Let me
Put him to 1.
Just leave the auctioneer. It's fine.
It kind of is.
I agree.
You have equality.
Well,
and a full board.
Well, you can trade your Poison Murloc into it and actually make additional 3/3s. Like, you push less damage now, right? But you kill the auctioneer and have 2 more 3/3s on the board.
Yeah, but then you can't play.
You have to trade another minion as well. Yeah.
So if anything, you tire him first and create a 1/1 on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Often I am. Using the weapon.
Why?
Madness. Didn't even have to use a poison either.
Yeah, you just trade a normal 3/3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can Loxodontis come back from 6 health? The answer is quite frankly no. And we see the power of this deck actually, just with the Murloc hero power. Like, imagine when the Valfin Inquisitor just goes away from rotation. Like, the deck will just not exist to a large extent.
Likely.
You know what I mean? Because just being able to press hero power and drop a Megasaur, we saw Megasaur actually just went on 2 1/1s there. Wouldn't have been possible, and it would have forced the Megasaur to come down on the Murloc pull from Finger. Which, I think was the correct play anyway. But just the flexibility means that the Megasaurs are never dead in your hand, as you said earlier on. And it was enough. So it's going to even the series up 1-1, Bulgaria versus Brazil. And yeah, we've got some more games coming up.
Yep, and remember, this pretty much as far as we see it. And again, we scrambled to do this maths very last minute because Sweden, who are in the same group, played a game on the same day, and they're involved in the mix as well. We believe this is a win and in game from both sides. So hugely important game that's been tied up at 1 game apiece now, with Bulgaria taking up a win in a pretty favourable matchup. We kind of saw exactly the situation happen that we described, where the initial push was made, that was quickly shut down by Fandral. And then the mid-range Paladin just went, all right, fine, I'll just switch to control for a couple of turns. And then I just actually outvalue the Jade Druid because I managed to do value and aggression in a nice enough balance that Jade Druid never gets to card 28, 29, 30 in their deck, where Jade Druid takes over value on everything.
Yeah, we are going to see I believe it was Paladin versus Hunter. Okay. I think. I might be wrong, actually. No, Paladin versus Rogue. Paladin versus Rogue. I apologize. Yeah. Golem Pachaga has Rogue, Leo Main on the Paladin. And looking at Brazil as well, we've mentioned a couple of times about the South America's sort of representation in other tournaments. They are going hard on Hearthstone global games. Like, they currently have some Brazilian casters actually just doing these matches specifically for the region. Yeah, and they're doing them at like some live events as well. They run like a lot of fireside events and stuff like that. So they push this very, very hard, and they are very proud to be doing so well. Actually, get messages from some of the fans, because I watched some of the Brazilian streamers like VCT, for example, that we saw in the playoffs.
Yep.
I watched some of those streamers, and like there was messages saying like, "Yeah, Brazil are playing today. We've got this, blah blah blah," and I'm like, I'm sure you have, Brazil. I'm sure you have.
I never said you didn't.
I know, yeah.
Stop tweeting at me.
Too much, too much. We're going to be getting into this game now. Leo Mane, as I said, on the Paladin. Looks like a very similar list to the one we just saw. And Golem Pachaga on the Rogue, Quest Rogue. I'm generally surprised we've not seen more Miracle. And I said this to Lorinda yesterday. And then I also followed that up with, I wonder how tainted that thought is by the fact that I spent multiple weeks with you, TJ, and Admirable smashing Miracle Rogue every single day.
Yeah, the deck's not good in the metagame right now. We were all playing it, and
You were all winning!
I mean, we're all pretty good Hearthstone players, despite what the internet might think. Yeah, we were all just playing Miracle Rogue because it was fun. Like,
yeah, the fun aspect gets
enough. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird feeling for me. I'm playing a deck that I know is meta inappropriate. I hit rank 5 within like a couple of days of the season, and the entire meta was just aggro druids that had also climbed to rank 5. So I was just clearly playing the wrong deck, but I just kept going because it was fun.
Yeah, and on the opposite end of that, meta appropriate is this crab. Can get some work done versus the old Murloc Paladin. And this could be a nightmare.
Are we going to see the dankest of memes? The thing that the Murloc Paladin hates to see, and that is a quest rogue completing the quest on their hungry crab.
Imagine, for a second, if the buffs stayed on...
Let me shut my eyes. Go ahead. Right.
So, you're on a beach.
Okay.
There's a crab.
Okay.
It eats a Murloc and gets buffed.
Oof.
It shadow steps away. It comes back, it's still buffed, then eats a Murloc and gains another buff. You're the Paladin.
I'm very challenged by which world I'm supposed to be in right now. You said imagine a beach, and then I was in a real world beach. Then there was a crab, and that was fine. But then a Murloc and Shadow Steps came along.
The best thing is...
I just don't know where I am anymore.
I'm imagining that the way you described it as like... A Murloc is probably almost like Hobbit-sized, you know what I mean? Not quite human-sized, a little bit smaller. And then, because you're in real world, you imagine a crab first, it's just a crab, and somehow it eats a Murloc.
Yep.
That got weird really quick.
It did.
But yeah, I was just saying, imagine if the buffs actually stuck. That would be nuts. But for Leo Mane's sanity, it doesn't. Still going to be difficult, though. Also, you can't really play the crab this turn, right? Because I think you do want to bounce it.
Right, I mean,
because you have Valfin is down.
That's the kind of if to your statement there. You can't play it this turn if your intention is to try and complete the quest on it, or at least to try and bounce it back and forth until you've gained some kind of board advantage out of the fact that you just keep eating Murlocs. So if you're not planning to do that, then you're just hero powering this turn, but then suddenly Rockpool Hunter comes down, and is your hungry crab even quick enough at that point?
Okay, so Golem Pachaga is going to go for it, and we can see that it's not actually answerable at this point anyway, so he can get the bounce off, and I think that was more just weighing up the pros and cons. What's more likely? Something answers this, which would have been very limited indeed. I actually don't think anything could have answered it from the Vilefin. And he does have the Ferryman next turn that he can combine with Glacial Shard as well.
Right.
So he can gain instant advantage, call off this Vilefin, and then just Ferryman it back.
When I introduced this, I did say, it's kind of the dankest of memes. It's not usually a thing that happens, even if you have crab in your opening hand, right? You need to be looking at like a crab and a bouncer and a shadow step, right? Like then you kind of make it happen. But otherwise, you just give the opportunity for your opponent to push through way too much early game damage. You might as well just play Totem Golem, eat your guy on turn 2. Like that is just a good Hearthstone turn.
Yeah. Do you like the look of it now or not? Do you think hero power will suffice here? Hero power for now. Still has the option of trading and bouncing with the crab next turn.
He does, yeah.
And what this Glacial Shard does is lock out a Rallying Blade. And very interesting the way the meta just changes. This play wouldn't have been made a few weeks ago because there is no need to freeze the Paladin's face going into turn 3.
Yep, they've just actually set this up very cleverly. They've given themselves maximum options here. They can choose now to rebounce their crab and rebounce their Glacial Shard. And with the face frozen, unless there was a random Bluegill warrior coming out of the Murloc Paladin, that's actually just free mana investment. Very rarely can you see Quest Rogue putting key minions on the board and just trusting that they're not going to die to be able to bounce them back. But Paladin is actually probably the most abusable class in the game in that regard, where if you've got their board clear, you're very clear on what the numbers they can do to your board to remove are.
Yeah, it's not often they can do anything too crazy, mainly just because of a lack of spells. More importantly, they just don't have the spells available to be flexible on. And Golem Pachaga has gone for bouncing the crab. And like I said, at best, you kill things like War Leader and Hydrologist that are in hand. At worst, your opponent never hero powers again. You know, that we're just like, yeah, it's still okay. Still no bounces, though. So Golem Pachaga is going to need something else to piece together this hand here. And second prep may lead up to a very powerful turn in the future, but it is going to require some bounces. So it looks like Golem Pachaga is going to be reduced to just hero power this turn. Taking his time over the turn, though, doesn't really want to give away that his hand is as dead as it looks.
Yeah, the part I don't like about the complete your quest on crab plan, which is just obviously immensely powerful, is that you give some kind of element of control to your opponent over activating your quest. Right? Because if they don't play Murlocs, you don't get to activate your quest, right? Because you play Hungry Crab and it's just not eating Murlocs and you expose it on the board. So they're just forced to then just bounce a crab for no value. And this mid-range Paladin deck is able to do that in a lot of positions. It can drop Stampeding Kodo, as you can see here. It can then follow that curve out into, Curator type things and then drop, Tyrion on a later date, or drop a Primordial Drake, or just curve Stonehill Defender into a mid-game taunt and just pressure you that way. So you do kind of limit your options against what your opponent wants to do.
This Patches draw is pretty terrible as well, because one, it's Patches, and two, it's just not a bounce. It's nothing that progresses this quest and this plan for Golem Pachaga here in Team Bulgaria. Very, very tough. Think of the cards they could have got. Mimic Pod. Any of the bouncers would have helped. Because at this point, you'd actually just consider Crab Bounce as a turn.
Yes.
Just get something on the board and go for it. But there's just nothing available. Even Vanish. So you can think, okay, I've got nothing now, but in a few turns I can go minion, prep, Vanish, go, and reset the board and then plan from there. There's just nothing, and this is the extent.
So weird.
This is to the extent that Leo Main is saying, no, Mr. Crab, not today. There is no beach. There is no crab. He's going to just play Megasaur on the board and say, well, it's a 5-4, deal with it. I've already got the Kodo down, and this is pressuring Golem Pachaga quite hard.
And you'd imagine the read that Brazil might have here is that there is a Hungry Crab and potentially one bouncer in hand right now that Bulgaria are just being very, very greedy with and are waiting to see a Murloc before they activate it. Little do they know, this hand is just absolutely miserable right now.
It's going to be double haha. It is. And this is rough. Yeah, Leo Main looks very happy at that. At first I thought it was sad, but now I think it's happy because he's like, well, that was a terrible turn. And he knows Patches is in hand now. One card is Patches, one card is Hungry Crab. The other two cards suck, basically, because nothing else has happened this game. But the problem is Leo Main keeps drawing Murlocs. It's like, no.
Well, I mean, now you have 3 of them to play, right?
Sure.
You can just play all 3 of them plus, or you can play Hero Power, 2/2 drops, and a secret this turn.
Yeah.
Your opponent can theoretically only remove 2 of them, one with the Hungry Crab, one with the Dagger if there's not a bounce in hand, and then you're pushing through the War Leader to get actual damage on the follow-up turn. But your follow-up turn kind of wants to be Tyrion a lot of the time. And if you do have the read that the hand is Crab and Bouncer, maybe you don't even want to expose the board to 2 Hungry Crabs coming down this turn, or potentially, worst case scenario, even a quest completion.
So you're telling me you just want Consecrate Face this turn?
I'm telling you this turn's really freaking hard, is what I'm telling you. Maybe.
I think even just pass, yeah. well, the thing is, Tyrion gets there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the big... If Tyrion wasn't there, you have to make a Murloc push.
Yeah.
You just have to. But Tyrion will solo the rest of the health on Bulgaria at this point, unless it's vanished.
Which is another card you might have a read on right now,
Yeah.
just based on how terrible the hand clearly is for Bulgaria in this spot.
Look at this though, Glacial Shard. Where are the bouncers? There's just no point. Both players are like, pass.
Yeah.
It's like, except one of them has a Kodo.
So we're on one crab, one shard, two South Sea deckhands right now, right? That's where we're at. Jeez.
Oh, Stonehill is good. Not this turn, but you know, anything.
It's a minion we can play that isn't a Murloc.
Anything that's not a Murloc is looking mighty fine for Leo Main right about now. Also, Leo Main's hair is just on point.
Leo Main reminds me a little bit of Plumpy from What Culture Wrestling. I'm aware that you don't follow me.
Chat Lorinder over for
Some
that one.
guy in chat though will be like, "Damn, he's right."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant Dan. He's right. I was like, no, he doesn't think you Falcon. Or Dan. Dan and Dana. Firefly, not a good pickup. Well, it's a good card. But, God, imagine playing this deck. And you literally cannot play bouncers, which means you have to draw Firefly, Igneous Elemental to proc your quest.
Yeah.
Hard deck to play.
It is when you draw like this, yeah.
You'd have to imagine Glacial Shard has to come down this turn, but it's just going to be too late. Even if bouncers were played this turn, it was still going to be hard.
Yeah.
Unless Vanish was the draw. I think Vanish was actually a better draw than anything else this turn.
Yeah, I mean, to win this game, he's going to have to do something as ridiculous as, like, completing his quest in one turn and then prepping the quest and prepping the Vanish. Right? Like, that's basically where we're at with this game.
And he has neither the bouncers, the Vanish, or the mana. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Shard.
beats you, actually.
Nice to meet you. Oh, I do. Oh, okay. Yeah. My mistake, Sal. I thought it was a cold pun, but instead it was a Savitz pun. I didn't realize. I apologize for that one. I missed it. Now the non-Murloc play seems good. Burn Bristle, why not? Kind of like it just to push damage. Probably could win with Gold Chai Footman at this point.
Well, I feel like you consecrate this turn, right? So I'm not sure if you're looking for something to play this turn, in which case maybe you just take Zoggoth.
Oh, you're like, oh, you consecrate. So you take the Gold Chai. But you can't Hero Power consecrate this turn, it's a Murloc.
Lucky I didn't say that then. Alright, they disagree. They're gonna take the Burn Bristle.
I mean, I think the impact is minimal based on that Stonehill pick, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Just still not. I actually feel sorry for Golden Pichaga here. This is unfair.
I don't.
You still like Quest Rogue?
They're playing Quest Rogue.
It's harsh though.
It is harsh.
It's like
harsh but fair.
That's what you get.
Yeah, I mean, you can't allow someone to play a deck with as powerful tools as Quest Rogue have, and then there not be a price of entry of it drawing dead some of the time, right? That's just the price of admission that you pay for playing the deck.
I just don't think I've seen Quest Rogue draw this deck
I
before.
don't think I have either.
That was, consider it looks so good with a crab opener with one bounce. All right, put the guns away, Leo Main. This is a family show. But yeah, I think like it looks so good with the crab. But then literally no other bounces for the rest of the game. And the game went to at least 10 turns there. That is absolutely horrendous. I would have expected just throw in a Shadow Step, a pity Shadow Step at that point. Just to allow them to try and do something at that point.
Just throw them a bone.
Yeah,
give those guys a Shadow Step. Jeez.
Yeah, it just wasn't good enough though. Brazil taking the lead versus Bulgaria now, 2-1. And we're going to see Coglorin on the Rogue versus Morgalad on the Hunter. Morgalad just continues to be a cool guy. First he just wins a lot, then he plays Hunter. What more do you want?
You can feel those hairs standing up again, guys.
Can't wait. Can't wait. And he was physically touching me then just because we're off camera.
I definitely wasn't. I would like to categorically deny that I touch Raven when the cameras are off.
So we're going to see Hunter versus the Rogue. And if it's the aggro variant that Kranich has sort of, you know, brought up recently.
Speaking of aggro variants, we saw tracking into Wolf Rider earlier today. I was laughing so hard. They didn't take the Wolf Rider. I was so sad.
Wolf Riders, I said, look, Rob would be impressed.
Yeah.
He loves that He loves that card.
Wolf
Sometimes you
Rider's,
just need to Wolf Rider.
Wolf Rider's just a bro.
He's just a cool guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
You just 3 mana, just gets him straight to face. But yeah, if it's the aggressive list, it might actually line up very, very well versus this Rogue. Because, you know, Hunter's a deck that just wants a few turns to get going, and Rogue is a deck that needs turns to get going, whereas Hunter will start on 1. Rogue often really starts the game on turns 4, 5, would you say, roughly? Once they get going with stuff.
Well, are you talking about Quest Rogue or Miracle Rogue?
Quest Rogue.
That's
Quest
the question.
Rogue.
Great. Quest
Miracle
Rogue.
Rogue's a different kettle of fish.
Right, because the power of Miracle Rogue these days is that with Swashbuckler starts with Razor Petal, which then gives you the 1 damage Razor Leaf, with the Dagger, with Backstab, with Preps and Fan of Knives.
Van Cleef.
Throw a Van Cleef in on top of that or not? Why not? Let's just be greedy with it. I think Rogue, weirdly enough, now has the power to pick apart Hunter early game quite effectively.
Yep.
And these days now Sap is being cut. One of the big problems for you is Savannah High Main. You don't have a nice way to deal with High Main anymore. So the entire Hunter-Rogue dynamic has oddly flipped on its head.
Yep.
It used to be the early game that Hunter would beat you up with, but if you could get a big tempo swing against your High Main, that was a big win. But now that dynamic is almost immediately reversed.
Yeah, we're going to see players get into
Ooh.
it. Miracle. Coglaren, you god. So, Hallucination. So the list, actually, I'll ask you about the list in a minute.
Okay.
But the this Hunter list, as we can see already from Morglad, mid-range, Deadly Shot, High Main, Galactic Crawler. Galactic Crawler going to be nice because, as you mentioned, Miracle Rogue does play Swashbuckler. And Deadly Shot as well for those emergency, you know, mainly Van Cleef as one high target. But also Miracle Rogue often plays Arcane Giants as the big pushes later on. Gadgets and Auctioneer is a huge problem, even a Questing. But what does this Miracle Rogue going to look like going forward, Sol?
So yeah, Swashbucklers, as you mentioned, Sherazin, usually Arcane Giants are pretty much core these days, Auctioneer and the cheap spell package alongside preps and counterfeit coins you're well aware of. The big discrepancies these days come in the 3-mana slot, where you are essentially playing some combination of Fan of Knives, Shaku, SI7 Agent, Questing Adventurer, and what have I forgotten? Mimic Pod.
Yeah,
right. Some various combination of 1 or 2 of those cards, depending on your preferences and meta. And of course, the Edwin Van Cleef is sprinkled on top.
Yeah, not to be confused with Edwin Van Leef, but yeah, Van Cleef's pretty dangerous card. And to quote Admirable, because I said earlier, you know, you were all playing Miracle Rogue for ages, like, why did we not realize Mimic Pod was just amazing in Miracle Rogue? Like, to just double up on cards or almost triple up on a lot of cards as well throughout the deck. It's absolutely huge. You know, you raise Petal Lashes, you look at even Arcane Giants you can hit very often. All the 3 drops are actually huge to double up on in your hand.
This hand, however, is pretty miserable. Prep SI7 Agent is not where you want to be with your life, but I think it's what you're looking at this turn.
Yeah, otherwise you're taking a huge risk with a Swashbuckler, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can Swashbuckler, you can like patches trade into the Direwolf that way, but then you just don't have anything on board regardless. So at least now the SI7 Agent challenges this board and then some.
Yeah, this actually tempo swings, which is crucial, right? Like, you actually force the Hunter to react to you in this spot. And Morglad is reacting to this by leaning back and putting his hands on his head right now. Of course, Morglad has been pretty much become well known for having that Bulgarian flag draped around him as he played. It's taking a slight backseat this time, but still very visible in the shot.
Yep. This bow, very nice as well. Bow was one of the great cards in the earlier days of Hunter versus Miracle Rogue. One, because it's just good to push for damage, but also it kills the SI7 agents, and just some of the early stuff helps trades with Tomb Pillagers back in the day as well. So it's going to open up a potential Hyena into Crawler turn as well.
Curious about the Swashbuckler here. My immediate gut instinct this turn is to just go Blood Mage, Hero Power, and smack the 1/1. Because then you just create this weird world where, you know, the value trade on the board doesn't exist anymore. It's just 1/1 for 1/1, and also...
If the bow hits the Thanos, you're like, okay.
Morglad just doesn't want to swing an Eaglehorn bow at your Blood Mage Thanos. I think maybe someone on Team Brazil has talked Coglorian into that same play. Yep, this is the line I like for sure.
Yeah, this is nice. It's kind of a win-win situation for Coglorian here. And also, this has very deftly avoided the Crawler turn. Obviously, he didn't know this.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, from Brazil's perspective, they don't know there's a Crawler in hand.
Yeah.
But if it was just Swashbuckler, it was like, who's going to play it?
Oh!
I don't mind this.
The poggiest of champs.
This is not the point where you hero power over playing an additional 2-drop. I don't think.
No, completely.
So, the Crawler isn't going to snipe that Swashbuckler, but still it is going to pile on the pressure. And now, Hydra, High Main, followed up with Unleash and whipping in hero powers later on. Both still on, equipped to be able to deal with a few targets.
You know what? Yeah, I was just going to say, against Unseen Hunter here, I would be incredibly tempted to Vile Spine this 2-3. With Hydra in hand, we can see that is a big loss for Brazil. But when I've been playing against Hunter, my goal has just been grip the board before turn 6. Yeah. If I'm not ahead before turn 6 and their high main comes down, I don't have sap in my deck anymore. How do I deal with that?
Well, that's it.
So this, in theory, gets Brazil ahead. Little do they know they're up against a Bittertide Hydra.
Yeah, and like I said, there may be a sap in this list. We do not know,
sure.
But the most common lists don't play it. But there's a Leroy as well, which isn't commonly in the list either with the Giants. So,
correct.
Do you think the Giants will be played, or do you think there's going to be a Cold Bloods list? Yeah.
Very, very possible.
See what the draw is from the Swashbuckler.
Ooh.
Just bite. I thought that card was going to be all right, you know. Wasn't.
They're just going to Leroy double trade the Hydra right now. How much damage do they have, like, over time? If they patches into the Hydra, that's Hunter at 24. If the Hydra hits something else, that's 21. They have Grievous Bite, that's 18. Yeah, they're still a long way off, even with Leroy, right?
Yeah,
trading seems reasonable.
Just safe. You then start to, if there's no swipes in the deck, you start to worry about, you know, Hound Master, for example, or like even just a high main follow-up. It's like, well, I didn't deal with one, sure as hell can't deal with two.
Yep, Leroy and the prepped Grievous Bite is able to clear out the Hydra, and crucially, they do now have a board presence maintained going into the high main turn. It's not ideal, it doesn't deal with the high main, and they're not quite representing enough pressure to just go face and feel secure about it, but it's a position they can at least start to build off. There is the Cold Blood, now they are in business.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be no Giants in the list, more than likely, again, don't want to say for sure.
I will say that with like 95%.
Yeah,
confidence.
What do you cut, right, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you go really hard and cut Mimic Pod. That would be nuts. But even this turn, not fantastic. Can actually just go, depending on what Kuglorin wants to do here, he can go Gadgetzan, Cold Blood on the Swashbuckler, trade into the high main, and then clean up one of the 2/2s with the Vile Spine and just say, well, you have a 2/2 and a bow. Though that damage, yes, adds up to, you know, can kill the Auctioneer, but then nothing else. I think he's going to go for it.
You Auctioneer Cold Blood, you see what you draw, and then you react, basically. Like, if you just drew damage off the top, maybe you just jam face for 8 here, right? Like, if you pick up Eviscerates or something, just to give you more security on the coming turns.
Vile Spine's nice, though, especially with patches in hand.
And Vile Spine is just a board control card, so Kuglorin just defaults back to board control in this position.
That's a lot of damage. Ah, do you ever... Ooh, this is hard. Because without quick shots, and with your board presence being Alley Cat, there might be just a consideration to say, you know what, I'm just going to start burning him.
If you kill command, hero power face this turn, that is, what, 3, 8, 10, 12 damage. You put Rogue at 9. Then on the following turn, you have Unleash the Hounds, kill command, and hero power, which means if Unleash the Hounds goes face for 2, you have lethal over 2 turns from this spot.
I think you have to do it, even with Gadgetzan down.
I mean, there's 2 minions on the board right now. If this board state stays the same or gets bigger, then you have a 2-turn lethal setup from this position, and you have 11 spare health to play with yourself, having already seen 1 Leroy and 1 Cold Blood from the opponent, 0 Eviscerates.
And bear in mind as well, what really pushed it over the edge for me is the Alley Cat. Like, if this was any other chunky, like a beefy minion, sure, kill Commander Gadgetzan, trade off the 3/2, play, you know, a wolf, a vested wolf or something, you know what I mean? You can think about it. I do think you have to go aggressive here. Set up the 2-turn lethal and say, well, you know what? If my opponent's got it and Miracle's into me, sure. But this gets me 2-turn lethal setup.
All right, counterfeit coin or prep off the top is going to be necessary here to get going. That is not it. So just purely to stay alive this turn, Kuglorin has to trade off his 3/2 into the 2/2, play nothing... No, yeah, 3/2 into the 2/2, Auctioneer into the 1/1, patches into the other 1/1, and then play nothing.
That's a hard sell.
Yes.
That is a very, very hard sell here. We'll see what Kuglorin does. This is such a great turn there from Bulgaria and from Morglad, I feel. And again, you know, I've said it before, and you know, a couple of times. But it's something like I remember. I think the first time I heard it was like Firebat was talking about it. But often, or every single time, if you can set up turn 2 lethal, 2-turn lethal.
If you can set up turn 2 lethal, if you can play that Mana Worm and then rip the primordial glyph off the top.
Then you do it. But if you can set up 2-turn lethal and you don't just die to the backswing, you do it every single time because you will just win more games than you will lose, and that is the way you should play Hearthstone. Yeah, it's not going to be the trades, and Morglad, Team Bulgaria are going to be able to even this up. Just a nod there from Morglad, knowing exactly what needed to happen in terms of outcomes to get that game. Just a nod. There's the second kill command. Great recognition from this setup here, and he's going to be able to even it up versus Koglorian and Brazil. It's going to be 2-2.
We're going to come down all the way to the Ace series here. And out comes the Bulgarian flag. And while we have a moment to update you, we will just update you. Our little maths slave, known as Neil Lorinda Bond, has been slaving away. He's passed us a note that said Bulgaria actually qualified, as far as he knows, when Sweden lost earlier in the day. Yeah. Which means Bulgaria today were just playing to be able to top the group. That's what a victory means for them here.
Yeah, and it is important as well. It will define seeding for stage number 2. So if you top the group, you'll be in on what's on paper an easier group as you're going with more second and third places as well. So it is definitely worth playing and worth, you know, trying to win. And you just want a good record, to be honest. This is like a country versus country tournament where you may have heard that line before. Where
cardslingers each compete for national pride.
Saul loves it. Where, you know, you do want to just win. You want to say, we won the group out of all those countries, out of all those players, we won. So we are going to be going to the ace match, though, as this is currently 2-2 versus with Brazil versus Bulgaria. Loxodontis is the ace player going in with the warrior pick, which they left till the ace match. Oh, no, it wasn't, sorry. I was looking at Legolas. They all begin with L. So it was actually the warrior pick there, and it's going to be against the druid pick from Sandstorm. So both players ignoring the third class option, but Bulgaria did leave the Paladin for their ace pick, which is very interesting with the strength of Paladin at the moment.
Warrior against druid is going to be the matchup that we're going to see, and I feel like druid is generally in a solid position against either type of... Well, okay, there's 4 crossed matchups that you can have, right? Yeah. The aggro druid, Jade druid, aggro warrior, and the quest warrior. 3 out of 4 of those positions are okay with for the druid. They just don't want to line aggro druid into quest warrior. Yep. They're fine with Jade druid against either, massively favored against quest warrior, slightly favored against pirate warrior these days. And the aggro druid against the pirate warrior does just fine as well. So sight unseen, probability says that druid has got the better side of this exchange, but we will wait to see exactly what the matchup is.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of pirate warrior recently, and a lot of pirate warrior wins. More importantly, as I feel like just the Spellbreaker almost alone has been just getting so much work done in just opening up that final just push that Pirate Warrior often needs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge tech card. Pirate Warrior generally hasn't worried about ways to deal with big taunts. We've never seen them play an Execute or a Black Knight or anything like that in the past, even when Execute was 1 mana. It just didn't happen. But the quality of taunt minions that has come into the game in Ungoro, you know, 4/8s for 8 mana that clear your board at the same time, and then Spike Ridge Steed as well, has kind of necessitated that Spellbreaker addition, which I agree is doing huge amounts of work in Pirate Warrior these days. Yeah, we are going to get into it, though. The winner of this game does take the match overall, and it's going to be Loxodontis on the Quest Warrior. And I'm presuming that's an aggro druid. I would presume along with you, yes. Yeah. Just because swipe, but aggro druid does play swipe now and again, normally one of. Yeah. But it's rare that Jade Druid techs in a Galacta Crawler, right? Yeah, sure. That's what I mean. It could happen, but they do have like some flexibility in the list. But yeah, it would be a bit of a surprise. And there's patches. It's rare Jade Druid techs in patches. The big talking point here, though, is whether Brazil to keep this quest or not. Because against Jade Druid, if you mulligan away the quest, you are probably 0% win rate. Something along those lines. Your win rate is when you find out it's Jade Druid, go, oh crap, it's Jade Druid, and then you draw the quest again within your first couple of cards.
Sure.
At that point, you can get back to your 30% win rate you had in the first place.
Go all the way up to that sweet, sweet 30%.
Yeah, but against Aggro Druid, mulliganing away the quest is only a small-ish increase to your win rate as you then open up those extra card slots to be able to hit the Fiery War Axes, Armor Smiths, Ravaging Ghouls, Brawls, Sleep with the Fishes that you need to be able to compete in the matchup.
Yeah, not a fast opening here for Silent Storm as he gets the knowledge that Firebloom's Heart is live now, and it is, in fact, the Quest Warrior. He's just going to drop Golakka Crawler onto the board. Does have the Innovate for maybe a big, innovate into a 5-drop? If a 5-drop is drawn, though. I feel like it's going to be key for this. Oh, it's just going to go double Golakka.
I was just about to present counterpoint, which I think in this situation is totally fair. You just need to get pressure going as soon as possible in this position. Like 2-3 go, and your opponent has War Axe here, or even just, Armor Smith, Dirty Rat, anything along those lines. Like, you can just be in a really rough position.
Imagine if Golakka Crawler's both stacked. You're on a beach.
I'm going to close my eyes. No,
let's not.
I don't think it was that funny the first time, to be honest.
Wow.
I was involved as well. I don't know why you're taking offense to that.
I started it. I feel like it's anything you say is a dig at me, to be honest. So
it's a safe assumption. You probably have above 50% win rate of assuming everything that I say is an insult towards you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Better than my Hearthstone win rate.
Doesn't help when everything you say is also an insult towards you.
I feel like it has to be. I've got to try and keep up with the cool kids.
All right.
This does open up with Patch's Power of the Wild, which I believe was the original line Bulgaria were looking at. Just taking a pause to look at Mark of the Lotus. Just, is there a world in which I want to double buff, not play Patches, but have a 1 trade into the Armor Smith instead?
Right.
But I believe just getting the extra minion on board is more worthwhile overall.
Ravaging Ghoul here just going to be played to contest. It takes care of Patches right now, and there's a pretty good chance that it gets to trade out another one of these minions on the follow-up. But this is a weird thing to say. It feels like Bulgaria are actually drawing their buffs a little bit too quickly in this matchup. They haven't got the token board generated just yet that with these consistent buffs would be playing nice with. So yeah, they're going to go ahead and just drop the second Power of the Wild as a 3-2. Mark of the Lotus coming down now does enable a value trade on the board. And Loxodon is not looking too pleased about the situation just yet, but that might have changed very rapidly with that draw.
Did you notice as well, the, excuse me, the Druid pick one has been fixed from the looks of things?
How?
It actually highlights the one they pick, not highlights the one they go. I think. Let's keep an eye out for that one. But I think it is actually
breaking news.
Yeah, I mean, it shocked me. I was like, what? He's gone for +1/+1?
Well,
whoa.
Guess we play that guy.
Yep.
I guess we get brawled. I guess we cry.
Sounded like I forgot what it's called. It's one of those like short poems that's like 4 lines or something.
Haiku?
Yeah, I like one of those. It's close. A for effort. Okay, that's not too bad. Wow, I love it. Oh, into Hydra.
There's no activator for this execute in hand either.
He'll draw it.
Will he?
Yep.
Do you believe?
I believe.
In life?
Loxodontis got this.
After love?
It's a good song.
Is it?
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to get down to that kind of song, okay?
I feel like that's a thing you shouldn't admit to several thousand people.
They will also admit it.
All right.
It's a great song. Sometimes you just want to dance a little bit.
So just trying to drop a taunt minion here basically to get some damage on this Bittertide Hydra. And I feel like the Bloodhoof Brave feels a tiny bit greedy. No, I guess it doesn't matter actually. So what I was going to say is that Bloodhoof Brave gives your opponent Mark of Yasharaj as a top deck out, just to be able to stick that on the beast, trade through without getting damage on the Hydra. But if you play Ali Armor Smith, it's just that plus hero power anyway, and the Hydra can remain undamaged. So it actually doesn't make any difference. So maybe the Bloodhoof and just gaining the 2 extra armor is better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could go for the 50-50 brawl if you're feeling confident. But I wouldn't be feeling confident if it was me. Also as well, that's only 1 out of 7 for the quest. Not that this matchup is about the quest per se, but still, do need to keep an eye on it. Innovate.
And that's a bad draw.
Just 4-3 though. Definitely a trooper. Survived the brawl.
Now it's kept on trucking here, but now Ali Armorsmith and Execute can come down and be in a very, very commanding position.
And then Drake.
For Loxodon, because then Primordial Drake can just sweep out, and then there is a backup Ali Armorsmith to round it all out. Taunt Warrior is turning the corner as Taunt Warrior does, and Bulgaria's window, even after drawing Living Mana into Bittertide Hydra in the mid-game, their start was just a little bit too awkward to be able to push through effectively. It wasn't wide enough for their buffs to really, truly be oppressive.
Yeah, and I think it shows the power of the deck that the draw wasn't good, and it still nearly got there.
Yeah.
You know, if there wasn't the brawl on curve for 5, and then a good enough answer for the Hydra and a bad draw from Silent Storm, they could have still got there, and the opening was not good in any way, shape, or form. So, shows the power of the aggro druid in its natural habitat. Second Ali Armorsmith. Look at this emote spam, I love it.
I don't want to buy your beard. Quit asking me.
At least he's not asking you to bite his beard. That's weird.
Bite his beard?
Yeah.
That does sound very creepy.
Yeah.
I'm deeply uncomfortable with
I'm
this
surprised
conversation,
Admirable's
Rick.
not asked us to do it at some point.
Now I'm even more uncomfortable.
Yes. Look, is that Loxodontis very happy, rubbing his hands, saying, "Look, we got this, guys.
Ah, more
Let's
taunts.
get the party hats ready."
Thanks, dealer. I will take 2 more taunts this turn.
Oh, that sweet twin Emperor Velcor. Veclar, sorry. You just get Pompous Thespian
armor off.
just because, yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Yep, let's do it.
Jinx. Okay, Sol's unjinxed, because that'll be an awkward solo cast.
I proved in the last series I am willing to take enforced silence to awkward levels in order to commit to the meme.
Noted.
Mm-hmm.
Next time, be ready. Is there any reason you would not play Pompous Thespian here? Although this looks like a done and dusted game, genuinely interested.
Because you might have to play Primordial Drake next turn and it just kills it.
Yeah. Are you thinking about Brawl as well, maybe?
Yeah,
In case, Living Mana comes down, you can, like, trade Brawl.
maybe.
But so Corsair's going to chip the weapon, remove that durability, but this is just, I mean, it's not even a beast.
Got him.
Aha!
You played right into me.
You never expected this. Sounds like a terrible anime villain.
You gotta take those small wins when you get them, right?
Yeah. But now it's a slam target. Looks at Under's like, you played right into me. Now I get Armorsmith, and it just is what's surely got to be the final nail in the coffin here. Look at the heated debate going on here. Looks is there just very, very emotive and talking often. It's like, no, I want to play the Armorsmith this turn. It's like, everyone's like, well, we've won. It's fine. Just press armor up. And
Seriously, situations like this where you have won literally all the time are when you get some of the most animated discussions out of Hearthstone players. Because everyone loves a good argument about which play wins 99.99% of the time and which play wins 99.98% of the time.
It's Pompous Thespian just chilling, though.
Continuing to chill.
And be pompous. Dark Creeper. It's not really going to get there, is it?
No.
Not even a mark of the lowest. Means it's 4 attack. Can clear this whole board if it didn't die.
Always the optimist, Raven.
Sometimes you've got to be. One of us has to be. And with you and Lorinda here, got to work overtime. Team Bulgaria just going to hang in there, see what happens. But this is, as you can see, just feeding Brazil armor. They're getting armor from the Ali Armorsmiths, armor from the regular Armorsmiths that don't work in allies. And even better news, I think there was a pretty good guess that there was no minions. Loxodon is just messing around now.
I got nothing.
That's good. It's hard to analyze a game when it looks to be over. Wow, it's even going for the Drake. Be a +5 armor gain.
This has just become a side quest now, which is how much armor can I gain before this game ends?
Yeah. Would gain +5, and all the minions would still live.
That is 6 out of 7 now, by the way, for fans of warriors completing quests. So the quest completion is in hand with the Primordial Drake, as if that had any relevance to this game ending whatsoever.
Savage Roar can help push through a little bit.
So
push through the Pompous Thespian.
Interesting way you pronounce that card, Raven.
Savage.
What kind of accent is that?
Bad one. It's going to be the concede.
Oh, thank God.
Loxodontis raising his hands to the sky. Very, very happy with this. Very emotive players in general coming from Brazil. Whereas Bulgaria taking the loss, but I do believe they, as you mentioned earlier, Bulgaria have qualified into stage 2 because Sweden ended up losing. Sweden was one of the teams that could knock them down, or at least, you know, like make this match specifically count.
Right.
But Bulgaria are through, but Brazil taking the win as well. I believe, I'm not 100% on if they're through, but I believe if it very strongly solidifies their position going forward into week 10.
Yeah, we can talk to them very soon and see if they've done the maths, but our understanding in our very quick maths that we readjusted after Sweden lost is that a win would put them through, so we'll see if they know with any more confidence than we do, but we think the job is done for Brazil at this point.
Yeah, very back and forth series, starting off with the Mage on Mage matchup, and it was the Secret Mage that was on the rough end of that stick, so to speak, but yeah, went all the way to the ace match, and players played fairly quickly, actually, considering it was a 5-game series. It seems to be, you know, reasonably speedy, which isn't something we're particularly used to when games get a little bit slower, a little bit of the longer matchups, because the teammates do actually just discuss plays. We're even seeing it. We're even seeing it at the end there. But we're going to check in with Legolas, who's one of the players, of course, we saw earlier for Team Brazil. Congratulations, Legolas, on the win. How's it feeling? Since I think, I'm sure like you'll be able to know as well, but I think Brazil are now definitely through to stage 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games.
Hi everybody. Well, we're definitely very happy. Yep. We before the game we wanted to win by 3-0 or 3-1. It was the ideal, so we could end the day in first place. Mm-hmm. But after we saw Switzerland's won, only the win mattered, because now we are, like you said, in the second phase anyway. So we're very, very happy for sure.
Yeah, and what's the support like in Brazil and the South America scene in general? Because I know you've got quite a close-knit scene there. I do catch some of the streamers as well when they're live, even though it's funny times for me. But it seems to be a very passionate crowd, and you know, there's a lot of local tournaments going on. You've got Copa America over there as well. So what's it been like in general for support for the Global Games team?
Well, I think the Global Games sport, it's great for us. About the a lot of tournaments, we lack actually we lack tournaments a little. We have a lot of complaints in Latin America because of that. So we would like more exposure, more tournaments, so you can play. But like you said, our crowd is very passionate. They cheer a lot for us. They hate us when we lose. They get very happy when we win. So we all understand that. And we are very happy to represent Brazil, and we are not playing for us, only Brazil, but we're playing for the scene, a scene that has so great players, not only the ones who had voted, and not only from Brazil, but in other countries like Argentina, Chile, us. I think we play for all Latin America, and to make our scene grow in a way. So we are very happy to be able to represent our for sure.
It's a quick question. The last game, Warrior versus Druid, it seemed like there was someone on your team that was just kind of trolling and stopped trying to win the game and just started trying to gain as much armor as possible. Was that the case? And if so, who was it?
No, actually was not.
Okay.
We won the game. Okay, we won the game. And then when we picked the 3-2, I don't remember the name. Actually me, I just yelled, "Wait! Like, okay, we won the game. What the only thing we can lose, like they have Deathwing or the New York Siren, something like that, okay?
Sure.
Because we won.
Right.
So I said, well, let's just keep, we have like 10 mana, we have a 8 drop and a 2 drop.
Yep.
Let's just wait, keep that, we'll get an infinite armor, we will hit them, we will complete the quest eventually, so there's nothing we can worry about other than that, you know? So let's just keep that on hand and keep rolling until we win. The time is on our favor, so there's no need to rush on this case. Let's just enjoy our victory step by step.
Yeah, we did like it. We were discussing they were probably thinking of what do they lose to? But it looks like your dog wants to celebrate with you anyway, so we'll let you go. Thanks a lot, Legolas. We'll speak to you soon, no doubt. Congratulations again.
The classic play around Deathwing in aggro Druid line, of course.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, you were talking about when you're that far ahead, it's what do you in any world lose to?
Yeah.
Let's play around it because why not? It's also it's cool hearing from Legolas though, talking very passionately about the scene.
Very animated.
We're doing it for for the country, for Brazil, for just the area in general. And he was saying that, and this made me laugh as well. His the fans overall were. Hate us when they lose, love us when we win. That just sounds like passion to me. If anyone's ever met a fan of football, they will understand what it's like in terms of the love-hate relationship with a team, right?
Supplant football for whatever sport it is you follow. That just sounds like fans of any competitive game. You just saw the big swing turn happen in this opening Mage matchup, though, where the Medivh came down for Bulgaria. It was copied by Brazil, and then Brazil was able to gluttonous ooze off the Atiesh from Bulgaria and then play their own Medivh, which went unanswered. Bit of a strange turn that followed that with the Antonidas clear, but they still had enough to push through. And there is the dog that wanted to say hello to us at the end, I presume, and now going to celebrate in good spirits with Legolas.
Yeah, little pupper going on there. And then we see the Jade Druid versus Paladin matchup, and again, it was just there was a turn where it could have been the Megasaur turn in that previous game, and it didn't quite make it, but Megasaur ended up doing its job later on. And then very quickly we saw the most pitiful rogue game I've seen probably ever, and that is no reflection on the player, that is a reflection on the draw.
Yeah, it was just an absolutely miserable draw. And then we saw this Hunter versus Rogue matchup where the Rogue drew fine. There was some kind of awkward turns early on, but then there was a good recognition of a two-turn lethal setup from Bulgaria to draw it to turn 2. But if you want to talk about a miserable game, Raven, this was a miserable game if you're a Bulgaria fan.
Yeah, it was tough. Just too much armor. There was the stabilization down to the brawl, and then that removal of the Hydra sealed the deal. But yeah, great play from Morglod with that Hunter though, because I feel like it's even more important to set up those kind of lethals because there's no quick shot available nowadays.
Right, and it was a relatively obvious two-turn lethal setup that you would expect any decent Hearthstone player to spot. The solid part, though, was that they were brave enough to ignore an auctioneer to make it happen. And that takes some convincing. Again, it wasn't a mind-blowing play, but in a high-pressure situation, still having the fortitude to ignore that auctioneer, push face, finish the game. Bulgaria have continued to show they're a pretty solid team in this tournament.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We can check out the group and see how it looks. Brazil will be ecstatic to be at #1 in this group after, they did lose a match a little bit earlier on, but Bulgaria have been rocking the top of that group for the longest time, I would say. Now it just feels like most of the HGG season, but now Brazil are going to be at the top. Bulgaria 3-2, but they have qualified, and then I believe there's still something to go on in terms of that third place spot.
Yeah, the crucial point why Bulgaria have qualified here is that China and Indonesia cannot both go to a 3-2 record because they play each other in their final game. So Bulgaria have locked up their position because no other two teams can join them on 3 wins at this point.
Yeah, so we'll be checking that out soon, no doubt. We'll be coming up next week, I believe, to find out what that game is going to be like and who's going to end up joining those two teams in the group. So that's that match done. We've got one more match for you coming up. It is going to be Chile versus Israel. So we'll be right back with that one. Don't go anywhere.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.